Hi, my name's Liss and I'm an artist educator here at Maitland Regional Art Gallery, and we're in Alicia Fuster's exhibition of this place. It combines video, sound, installation and natural objects to create an immersive experience that brings you closer to nature. You can see behind me this incredible tent structure and the shadows and light that play across the canvas. Have you ever been camping before, or have been in a place that you've felt completely connected to the land that you're on? Alicia's ideas explore the boundaries between our physical bodies and the places that we exist in. She encourages mindfulness, connecting to our environment. If you listen really closely, you might be able to hear a few different things. Perhaps you can hear some birds singing and a stream. Does it suggest any places that you've been to before in your life? If you're situated near a window, you might like to take a deep breath and have a look outside. See what natural things you can see, perhaps a garden or some trees. Notice the way that the light falls. We're going to do an art making session that uses natural materials, creating our own brushes and textures using paper and found objects. So we're going to start our art making session. And before you get started, just make sure that you have a nice clear space to work in, and it might get a bit messy, so you might like to put some paper down. We're going to be using natural materials to create a painting today. So you might like to go for a walk outside and just pick a few bits up. You can use sticks. I've got some rosemary here, different shaped leaves, some flowers. They don't have to be dried, they can be fresh. And I've got some paint here. So what I've done is just grab some black paint, but any paint that you have at home is fine, any colour, and added a little bit of water. So it's watered down and a little bit more liquidy. You're going to need a piece of paper, a piece of cardboard, anything that you'd like to paint on, canvas, whatever you'd like. So once you've grabbed a few materials, take a moment to hold them in your hands and just have a feel. What do they feel like? Are they hard? Are they soft? Do they have pointy edges or smooth edges? Can you recognize the plants that they're from? Maybe even what do they smell like? This one reminds me of cooking. And then we're going to take a piece of paper, and also something that's important is to have some paper towel. So we're going to be using our natural found objects, a bit like paintbrushes. So you're going to want to have a piece of paper towel handy so you can rest your used brushes on them to not make too much mess. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I might start with this stick and pick an end that looks most interesting. And I'm just going to dip it into my paint mixture and start to drag it across my piece of paper. So I'm going to start to turn it as I drag it to see what kind of interesting shapes, textures and lines I can create. Taking it really slowly. I'm not drawing anything in particular, just using a bit of intuition and letting the stick kind of guide me. And I've noticed with this stick that it makes quite a thin line, and when I turn it and the paint catches on the bark, it creates multiple lines. And then I might choose something else. So I find this really interesting as it has lots of different points on it. And I'm just going to dip the whole thing into my paint. Removing any excess and then using it just like a paintbrush. This one looks a bit like the legs on a spider. I might choose a flower next. So I'm just going to dip the entire head of the flower into the paint and then use it a bit like a stamp. You can start to move your way through the different natural materials, picking out ones that you think would make the most interesting marks. If you have some masking tape or duct tape, you can create your own paintbrush. So I'm going to take a stick and just some gum leaves that I've found and bring the ends nice and close together, taking a length of tape bunching them together and just taping them to the end of this stick. And then I'm going to create a similar one by using feathers. I'm going to grab a new piece of paper for this one. And I'm going to have a think about what kind of marks these two different paintbrushes might make. I think that these might create a soft mark, and these may be multiple different thin lines. But let's find out. I might try a gum nut next. It's got a nice round top on it, so I think some circles is probably what's going to come out of this one. Gently rolling the edges on the paper and then gently moving the gum nut across the page creating this really interesting, almost like a spiral shape. I'm going to keep exploring the different mark making and using this flower now. And you can experiment with the different ways to use the brush. So bouncing it up and down, dragging it across the page, swirling it, rolling it. Once you're happy with what you've created, remembering that it's not supposed to look like anything, it's just experimentation. See if you can recognize any of the marks made. So when I look at this one, the first thing that I notice is this really interesting mark here. And I know that that one was the gum nut that I used. Here I can see the remnants of a flower. This one looks like it's almost vibrating with movement. Which mark do you like best? Having a close look at all the different marks that you've made. Reflecting back on Alicia Fuse's exhibition of this place, we can see that she used natural materials to bring us closer to a natural environment. And we can do that in our own art making at home by using found objects to create interesting marks. If you don't have any natural materials handy, you can get a bit ingenuitive and use things found around the home. Items like knives, forks and spoons all make really interesting marks when you use them with paint. It's a chance to get creative. Thanks so much for joining me in this art making session. And remember that you can come back and do this video anytime you like and have a look at the adjoining worksheet.